set themselves up for the 300-miler here tomorrow evening. Dave Burns and Dale Jarrett with you up top. Marty Snyder will be patrolling the garage area, picking up most, if not all, of the stories of these two practices. And DJ, we've got some good onboard camera looks this afternoon. Make sure we keep the fans entertained who are joining us on the NBC Sports app.
Yep, see the thermometer there, 97.5 sitting in there right now until it gets going. It's about 86 degrees. It's the temperature here in Sparta, Kentucky.
And right away, Christopher Bell wasting no time, putting the 20 car on track, and we ride. Dale, as we get a good look at the opening laps, we notice a big difference in color on the racetrack. We've got a dark strip around a very light gray racetrack. Why is that?
Yeah, certainly. Last year as they came here after a total repave 2 straight years, now they've had the tire dragging out here the last couple of days, and but it basically is about a groove and a half wide. It looks like didn't even get all the way to the very bottom, except right in the center of the corners. You can see here with Christopher Bell that it's going to be interesting. Anything outside of that, I can tell you, is not going to be any fun. Anything in that gray area, obviously to get in that, you're already out of control, and you're going to be more so if you happen to get in that gray part.
Interesting to see how the Tire Dragon has a lane that it used, a line, if you will.
Yeah.
Drivers may or may not choose to use that exact line. Bell was in and out of it in several places.
Yeah, especially getting into 3. You're not going to see very many people be able to stay out as wide as what that black strip is going into turn 3. It's a very flat entrance to the corner, and you fight a loose race car already getting into that corner. And so it's going to be, that Tire Dragon can make a better line than what you can in a race car around here.
Good look at Paul Menard in the 22 and Matt Tift in the 2 car. They both shut it down coming in after their first run. Opening laps of practice, Dale. What are the teams working on?
Well, I think it's more to get a feel of your car right at this point in time and see exactly how much grip there is. This is a new left side tire that Goodyear made after a tire test. I believe it was back in May that they did the tire test here. So it is a little bit softer now that the track is aged a year, and of course it had the races from last year, so Goodyear decided they could soften that up to help the drivers with a little bit of grip because that's what you fight here and anywhere else, so they wanted to keep that as soft as can. So as you see how much grip you have to begin this, and then a lot of times you might look, last year I know there was a lot of scuffing of the tires done, so this right side tire might require some scuffing to really get the performance out of it.
Spencer Gallagher reacquainting himself with the 23 car. Remember that he won at Talladega, and then he was found to have violated Section 19 of the rule book, NASCAR's substance abuse policy. He went through NASCAR's Road to Recovery program and was reinstated on July 4th. He did not race last weekend. He is back for the team this weekend, and I'm sure very happy to be back behind the wheel and a better man.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's made mistakes and gone through things in their life, and it was just a very unfortunate timing. But maybe the timing was right because you get through with it, put it behind you, and move on. And he obviously proved just before this happened that he's a really good race car driver.
Spencer shuts it down after 4 laps. We move now to the 21 car, who has also finished up his first run and is fastest. We'll acquaint you with the names and numbers this week. They do change week to week, with several Cup drivers in the race, not in the 42. However, that is John Hunter Nemechek, racing in the car that has done some winning lately, and in fact here last year with Tyler Reddick behind the wheel, crushed the field.
Yeah, just wore him out, especially the last half of that race he did that. And of course Kyle Larson has won the last 2 races, Chicagoland and Daytona, in his 42 car. Not this car, but one similar.
Not even similarly painted, huh?
No, not at all.
the paint scheme rodeo we keep up with week to week, but it's good. We love the sponsorship variety. We just have to stay tuned.
Yeah, and John Hunter in his chances this year has done a really good job of getting in the car and being competitive and really doing a good job.
John Hunter has the second quickest one-lap time. And now Tyler Reddick getting up to speed in the 9 car.
You saw him with his left sides right on that yellow line, and that's where you will want to be. And so you look at that, you could see that the dark part there that was not all the way down there. So the new left side tire should help you in that respect. And then having some grip maybe with what the Tire Dragon put down there, having the right sides in that may make for some good grip and cornering speeds, but I'm just not sure that is wide enough for 2 cars to go through the corner side by side at speed.
At speed, correct. Pace laps will be great. Don't know about 180 miles an hour.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
This driver has been on a hot streak lately. 00 of Cole Custer.
Yeah, Dave, Cole Custer certainly very good at these mile-and-a-halves, isn't he? Won at Homestead, Miami at the end of the year last year. And I was talking to the team earlier. They said, the biggest thing we're working with Cole right now is just simply confidence. We know he has the speed to be able to get these wins, but working on that confidence as a young driver, especially coming off a race like Daytona, where you're in these packs all day long and it's very aggressive racing. But DJ, for a young driver, just talk about how important that simple thing of confidence is, even though you've won at a mile-and-a-half before.
Yeah, and he's performed well. Last year, he was the top performing driver at the mile-and-a-half racetracks in this series. And so, I think he sees that as a benefit to him. He has no problem in going fast. He has a really good feel for the race car. I think this year, one thing that's held him back a little bit at the beginning, more so, as you said, he's been on more of a hot streak here recently, is that they just didn't have much racing luck going their way. It seemed like that whether it was a pit stop or choosing the wrong lane or something, relegated him to a finish that wasn't as good as what they had run.
Elliott Sadler takes us on a ride along.
As I look at the board, Dave, I know it's going to surprise you, but Kyle Busch is the quickest here. So I know that's always a surprise when he goes to the top.
Kyle Busch, the 8-time winner across the 3 series here at Kentucky. And Elliott shuts it down, and we don't get quite that bobblehead look that we're probably going to get a little later at speed with the helmet cam, sorry.
Yeah.
And he'll carry that for us all weekend.
Yeah, it's not quite as rough as it was because of these couple of repaves that they've done, but you're still going to get a really good shot of what it's like to go around here at speed from Elliott Sadler.
Brandon Jones drives the 19. Here's some recent radio.
These guys, they came out and ran that Tire Dragon, as you well know, through both ends of the racetrack. But where they come out the road seems to be about a lane higher than what you had earlier today. Everybody's still running right below that darkness, so pretty much right where you were in the truck practice. I'm assuming Seabell's still out there running, and he's hit that mark every lap, both ends, into 3 and 1.
Good information for a driver to have, and Jones heads back out.
Yeah, and been out earlier in the truck, that's certainly a little advantage. He kind of understands that and knows what to expect a little more than others.
Ty Dillon will be in the 3 this weekend. Green and white will be able to pick it out easily. Good looking race car.
Yes.
Ty, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's easy to see as you go around. Of course, he's going to make a pass on the car, but you can just see how much shallower the entry is into turn 3. Again, you don't have the banking to lean on as you enter there at a high rate of speed. And so as he'll go past the start-finish line here and he'll swing back out towards the wall, you can make a much bigger arc into this corner, which helps you get to a better place in the center of the corner without turning the wheel as much. Plus, you have a little more banking down there. That's the way the track was. They intentionally did that to make the 2 ends different when they did the repave. Make it a challenge for the drivers.
Ryan Reed in the 16 as usual for Roush Fenway Racing. And Ryan chasing after another playoff bid, but he's not in the position he wants to be in. not as comfortable as he'd like to be. Of course, he had those wins before at Daytona, who pretty much put him in that direction. Reed is currently 11th, 70 points to the good.
Yeah, and 70 sounds like a lot, but you string together a couple of bad races. And Daytona was somewhere I'm sure that he looked with his success there that he would be in pretty good shape, but got involved in a couple of incidents there and didn't come out of there with the night points-wise that he was looking for. Matter of fact, I'm sure he went there thinking this is my chance to secure my playoff spot. And such a tough thing to do, even if you have won there a couple of times.
We know somebody did it on Saturday night with that attitude, right?
Yes.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr., his Cup-side teammate, was very aggressive in trying to get his win to get into the playoffs, and Ryan Reed certainly was hoping to do the same the night before. Marty, what's going on?
Brandon Jones making a pass on the track, Dave. And a thing I noticed there on the radio a moment ago, you heard his spotter, Chris Osborne. Brandon is running the Truck Series race tonight, DJ, and Chris is also spotting that race for him. So how critical is it that, hey, not only is the young man getting experience, but he gets to hear that spotter in his ear once again tonight and tomorrow night in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series races.
Yeah, there's no doubt that's an advantage, Marty, when you have that same voice. And he was giving him good information there, just letting him know that, hey, you know, how you were driving the truck around here is no different than what the guys that's at the Fast Times did and whenever they went out that first time. So just, you know where you need to be. Just go put this 19 car in those same places, and things will be good. So he keeps moving up with each lap, just kind of taking these, which is smart for this young man to do. You know, he doesn't need to go out there, and it pays nothing to win this first practice whatsoever. Sure, right. You want a fast car, but work your way up to it. He's moved up to the 14th quickest time right now.
And he bets that there are 3 things that you don't know about him.
Hey guys, I'm Brandon Jones, driver of the number 19 Toyota Camry for Joe Gibbons Racing, and here's 3 things that you don't know about me. One would be that I'm super OCD. To give you an example, in the gym, I have to have all the weights perfectly aligned correctly and things of that nature. Second would be that I actually enjoy oxyacetylene welding and brazing. I took that class in high school and actually became really good at it. And third one being that I really enjoy barbecuing whenever the weather is really good outside.
2 of those things involve fire, DJ.
They sure did, Dave. You're exactly right. And I guess he can probably eat all those hot dogs and hamburgers. He's in there moving the weights around all the time to get them exactly where they should belong. So, I don't know why people don't put them back there to start with.
But now, look, I would say it's a good thing for a welder to be OCD. That's okay.
Yeah.
Line up all the welds perfectly. That's nice. The weight room, I'm not too sure about.
I don't know, but you can see all the hot dogs were perfectly placed and the hamburgers. So you got that part, too.
Gotta love it. Brandon Jones shuts it down, and Jones right now 9th quick in single lap times. Jones, by the way, in good shape, 7th in the Xfinity Series standings, 188 points above the cut line with 10 races to go. It is winding down, Dale. You really got to start thinking about, man, is this going to help or hurt my chances if I'm going to take a risk out there of making the playoffs?
Yeah, and with a driver in his position, that, again, it sounds like a lot of points, and he is in really good shape. But I think that, you know, he's starting to mature some as a driver and understanding that, you know, if you don't have a chance to go win the race legitimately without doing something crazy, then there's no reason to take that risk and you know, risk losing points versus a good points night. There's a lot to be said to that, because as we get to the playoffs and have no Cup drivers in there, then things are going to be totally different. The racing's going to be completely different, and opportunities will present themselves. You have to be in the playoffs, though, for that to matter.
Justin Allgaier is that win at Iowa counting for his playoff berth. Ty Majeski would like to be. He's had a huge week already. Wins at La Crosse, Wisconsin Speedway in his late model, and then the Slinger Nationals won on Tuesday night. Told me this afternoon he'd been trying for 6 years, which doesn't sound like a long time, but in a race you want to win so bad for a Wisconsin kid. He finally brought it home Tuesday night, and I guess did it in a pretty spectacular fashion. Pretty strong race car, and Ty's tearing him up there. Would like to not be tearing things up here. He's had so much bad luck. It hasn't been his fault in the Xfinity Series a lot of times, but trying to get a good finish at this level this week. Marty, which end of the garage are you on now?
I'm hanging out in the middle, Dave. How about that? But by Elliott Sadler's car. And just 14th fastest on the speed chart right now for that #1 machine. What's going on with it? Take a listen.
I'm okay, middle off, not too bad. But just as I turn off the wall, it's pretty free, but just like the right rear won't hold me. Almost shearing that part of the racetrack. Hard to get a feel with these tires. These tires feel a lot different than what we've had. It's just very numb. It's hard to find the edge.
And to Elliott's point, this is a brand new left side tire here for Goodyear for this race this weekend. They did a tire test back here in May, and they had some heavy hitters in that tire test. Clint Boyer, William Byron, Joey Logano, Ryan Newman, and Martin Truex Jr. This tire is designed to have a little more grip. And DJ, you know, as a racetrack gets repaved and kind of loses that newness, if you will, kind of have to bring a different tire back. So a little bit of a challenge for Goodyear, always keeping up with these racetracks and how new that pavement is and how that pavement changes.
Yeah, it's a tough job Goodyear has. It's a tough balancing act is what they have. You know, certainly they don't want to have something that's too soft and you get into a blistering type situation. That's why they left the right side tire alone, because you still have a lot of grip out there, and it's a big load. Even though you don't have a ton of banking, you do have a lot of banking down in turns 1 and 2. And so they have to be careful there. But softening up that left side tire should help that turn 3 problems that most of them fight. Anyway, that's what Goodyear would like to have happen anyway. And I can understand where Elliott Sadler might be saying that it doesn't feel the same. I know it years ago, and I'm sure it transfers to this too. Anytime that something different was put down, and even though you might be dragging tires and putting some rubber down, it's not going to be the same. And so it's not until the cars and trucks get out here and really lay that rubber down to where you're going to get a feel time after time as to exactly what it's going to be. And so I think that it'll probably take a few times out. And it could be that this tire requires that it's going to go faster as they go back out for a second time.
Cockpit temperatures 115 to 119 for Ryan Truex and everyone out there. It's a warm day in Kentucky, Sparta, Kentucky, to be exact. Not quite like it was in Joliet, Illinois a couple weeks ago.
Not
but
quite to that, no.
That prepped them all for the rest of the summer.
Yes, yeah. I
And
looked
us
at
too.
the heat index here is the same as the temperature around the 86-degree mark. So, that's what was so stifling at Chicagoland was just, that heat index up well over 105, 110 degrees. And made it very difficult inside the race cars. But got these guys, the ones that weren't prepared for it then, I'll guarantee you are now.
Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Kyle Busch, we mentioned 8 wins across the 3 series here. Interestingly, 64 poles in his career as he grabs the little steering wheel there.
Yeah.
None this year. Think he's got a goal for tomorrow?
I would say so, but I think it probably more leans towards getting another win. He's inching up on that 100 win mark in this series, and I think that's got his attention.
Well, that's 8 away, DJ.
Yeah.
Now, you tell Kyle, you don't have a pole this year.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to say,
No doubt.
You know what, I want to check that box off.
That's
right?
a little motivation, no doubt about that, because they're not accustomed to that. I mean,
that's right.
He's won a lot of races from the pole. And you can even see, we talk about the entry to turn 3. We could see the lap before he was passing that car that his entry into 3, you can see him have to turn a little bit to the right with that looseness there. The problem is that if you try to take that away and make it to where you can go into turn 3 and give it a little bit of wheel, then you're going to be way too tight down on this other end, turns 1 and 2. So it's a real balancing act. But this type of racetrack, I heard some comments that Kyle made this week about this racetrack and what he likes. And it's about momentum. And we've always said that momentum, that's why he's so good at driving these cars. He's good at driving whatever he wants to drive. But when you get lesser horsepower vehicles, he does such an incredible job of keeping the RPMs up, of not slowing the car down through the center of the corner, and that's where he beats these people. And he's just a tremendous talent. But when you get to places like this, like turn 3 there, because of that momentum, he's able to carry there and drive the car a little bit on the freer side, but not totally out of control. It makes a huge difference.
Talented as he is, even KB will take a little bit of a strategy play when it will help his efforts at victory lane. That happened last July. Here they all come to pit road, except for one. Kyle stays out, and that was a winning move. $92 times. I looked at it twice today when I was looking over his stats. 92 wins in this series. It's really remarkable and fun to watch the talent at work.
He's so very consistent at what he does inside the race car. And when you can drive lap after lap and you're getting out of the gas, you're letting the car roll, then you can let the chassis react. He doesn't use a lot of brake, if any, here. And so that allows the chassis and the aerodynamics to work, and then he can give that good feedback and information as to what the car is doing, because he's not manipulating the car by having to use a lot of brake and make the car do things in that direction. And so much easier to fine-tune it. And when you have a man with his skills and just fine-tuning, that's why you win 92 times.
We've been watching the graphics across the top of the screen. You've noticed that Matt Tifft has gone to the top of the board with the fastest single lap time. Averages, Kyle Busch still holds that. Best 5-lap averages, that's all we've got for a total there. Cole Custer is second quick, Ty Dillon third, and then Kyle back to fourth now. But the racecraft, the understanding, the knowing what you need for later kind of mentality from Kyle, that's all there.
Yep.
Here's a driver just picking up on as much of that as he can. Spencer Gallagher back in the seat after missing 6 races. Had some good subs in the car during that time. And the team, I know, benefited from that. They've got a young driver in Spencer who is out of the seat for various reasons, and they get veterans in there. The team had to learn a whole bunch from Chase Elliott. My list isn't in front of me here, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's there's no doubt. You could see the improvement in him as this year moved forward, and you could see the speed, and he was able to run in the top 10 a lot of times, and then was able to get that victory. But it'll take him a little time to get the feel back.
Alex Bowman, Johnny Sauter, and even young Justin Haley in the car while Spencer was out of it. Marty?
Dave, Elliott Sadler trying to get a little better feel in that one car, made a few changes, and he said it does, in fact, feel a little bit better direction. It's been 55 races since Elliott made it to victory lane. His last win right here at this racetrack. But, DJ, I would assume as a veteran like Elliott Sadler, you don't let numbers like that get in your head, do you? You don't start thinking, man, it's been almost 2 years since we've been to victory lane. Elliott knows the championship caliber team they have, and he knows they're also in a position to be able to win that title here in 2018.
Yeah, and he knows it's going to get brought up every week, so he doesn't keep up with the numbers, but it's brought up to him every week about how many races it's been since he won. But he is so good at this racetrack. I remember when we used to come here and test, way back before we raced here, he was just so good then every time we would come test, and so that didn't surprise me to see him win that first playoff race a couple of years ago right here, and I think he'll be a factor in the race tomorrow night if he gets that feel that he's looking for. He knows exactly what he's looking for here. It's just a matter of getting the car tuned into that.
It's that same extrapolation we were talking about with Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
I know what it does here. The race is not going to be exactly like this.
Yeah, and the thing with Elliott is, he wants to win. He knows he's going to be a part of the playoffs. He's got huge points lead there. He wants to keep that points lead that he regained after finishing second at Daytona because of the playoff points that come along with being the regular season champ there. And so, he expects to be at Homestead racing for that. But he knows that he's probably going to have to win that race, and he doesn't want to wait for that first victory trying to get it at Homestead to win the championship.
Matt Tifft continuing to command the board. Fastest car, the 22-year-old from Hinckley, Ohio. The brand new Matt Tifft, we found out at Daytona last week. Told us about how much weight he had lost and how much fitter he was because of a workout program with Blake Cook, former driver.
I never looked at him and thought he needed to lose any weight personally, but, man, it's working for him. He's doing a good job there. And he had a good car at Daytona, too, and, made a move. I don't know if you'd even call it questionable. I mean, the hole was open there. And, when you're down inside of 20 laps to go, man leaves it open going into turn one. Austin Cindric had done a good job, too, to that point. But you can see right there, got into the back. Things got a little bit tight. He got it back of Ryan Reed. And then here, this is, I believe, 19 laps to go. You can see Austin Cindric let just enough open there. And both drivers were just having an outstanding night. You thought that, they might be in a position to try to get that win. But created a huge incident, but no worse for the wear here. In good shape. That helps you survive those things and come back and be ready to go again.
That is racing in the modern restrictor plate era, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yep. Daniel Hemrick looking good, Marty.
He's been pretty quick here today, Dave. And Danny Stockman told me, he said one of the biggest weaknesses we've had here in the second half of the season that they just started that is that it feels like the mile and a half have kind of lost speed as runs go along. So he told me, hey, we're bringing a completely different setup here, trying to do something to make us better on the longer runs. And so, DJ, that's when you're really getting down to the fine details, isn't it? They are so close to victory lane in this 21 team. He said, just for us to keep up with those Gibbs cars, we need to be just a little bit better, and especially on those longer runs.
Yeah, and you can see it happening. He's got good short run speed right now, so it's a matter of if what they have put in here, if they've got this kind of short run speed and can make it hang on, then they've hit on something that could get Daniel that first win that he's looking for.
He's finished top 10 in the last 7 races, his career long, and the longest active streak in the series right now. I want to remind you what our Friday schedule will be all about. Monster Energy Series practice, final practice, and then this Xfinity Series qualifying for their race. Monster Energy Series qualifying for their Saturday night race, and then, of course, all the action. Xfinity Series racing from Kentucky starting at 7:30.
All you don't even need your remote. Just turn the TV on and
grab lunch and dinner and sit there.
Spend 10 or 11 hours there.
Absolutely.
Before that's all over.
Michael Annette's 5 car making laps here. Michael has run 18 laps so far for Junior Motorsports. And he's 18th quick. That's going to change this time. He's going to run 19 laps.
Well,
so much for numerology.
He's not wanting to back up to 19.
Jason Stockert and Michael figuring out what they need to do to gain a little bit of speed, and then where they want that car to be for tomorrow night's race. Behind him, Ryan Truex in the 11. Good run last week in Daytona after a crazy night. And that's not on his helmet unless he decided to turn from the right side, but this will pan back to the man working behind the wheel.
Dave, it's fun to ride on board with Ryan Truex here, isn't it? It gives you a very good view of this racetrack here at Kentucky Motor Speedway. And, DJ, one thing that Chris Rice is really working with them on is how line-sensitive this racetrack is. He told them, listen, if you're off a foot or 2 feet from the line that you need to be on the bottom of the racetrack, we're not going to get that quick lap that we need in qualifying. So that's what they're working on right now, trying to hit that line just perfect. But it's amazing that a foot or 2 can make a difference, DJ.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. A foot, it certainly will make a big difference. And it was great riding with him. You could see as he came to the start-finish line that he was right down the bottom, just as John Hunter Nemechek is right here. And they literally drive straight out towards the wall and then make that big arc down into the corner. And as we were riding along with Ryan Truex, you could hear him. He drove way down in, was trying to stay in the throttle, but then as he went to pick the throttle up, it's like he lost the nose of the car, and so he had to be in and out of the throttle, which was not going to be good. If you were doing that in the race, then you were probably going to get passed by a couple of cars going down the back straightaway. So he might have just missed that, as Marty was talking about, by that foot and not being able to get the nose set and get a good drive off the corner.
John Hunter Nemechek continuing in the 42. There is the 12, and this week, Austin Cindric. So follow the bouncing young driver because he goes back and forth between this 12, the 60 car, and the 22, all Ford-related products. And, of course, the 12 and 22 at Team Penske. And the 60 for Roush Fenway Racing.
Yeah, and sometimes you would think with a young driver just coming into the series and getting used to these cars that maybe that would be a really bad idea. And I've thought about it a couple of times, and it may be a really good idea that he's able to learn and work with different people and hear different things, and the cars are somewhat different. So he has to really be on his game and giving feedback and talking and learning. And so, I think this is working out pretty well. He's done a nice job of getting speed out of all of these cars. And, you know, he looks like he's in a good spot to make the playoffs. So just continues to grow. But, you know, as challenging as I'm sure this is to jump in different cars and to talk and listen to different people, it's probably going to be very beneficial when this year's over.
Austin's 19 years old, and he's already been around the world racing in sports cars and now full-time in NASCAR. Quite a young career he's got. We pulled up some playoff points on the left for you. You can see that 3 drivers are in officially by their wins. And then, Dale, you spoke about the nice bubble of points that Elliott Sadler once again this year has accumulated, trying to win that regular season championship if he can. That's worth more points.
Yep. He's got a battle on his hand with that. He had a couple of bad races. He had built up a pretty good lead again, but you can see Daniel Hemrick's right there, Cole Custer's right there. So could be a real fight for those playoff points.
And remember, 16 cars for the Cup Series, but only 12 make the playoffs, and only for 7 races in the Xfinity Series. So you can see Michael Annett, Kaz Grala, who is not in the race this weekend, Ryan Sieg, and Jeremy Clements all looking for a way in to that top 12. New number for Tyler Reddick this year. We all remember what happened last year. The phrase beatdown comes to mind. The 42 was on fire.
Oh, about halfway through that race, he took control of it and just made it no contest whatsoever. They made green flag pit stops before the last long run there, and he just wore them out.
Just spoke to the media a few minutes ago in the media center about, you know, hey, coming back here, a little confidence the way you won last year. And he didn't say this, I'll say it. He's on a different team. It's still a Chevrolet, but they build him a little bit differently. Yeah. Same horsepower. But he even mentioned, there's some things about the car, maybe the splitter, that are different than last year. And so he kind of goes back and forth between being confident about Friday night.
Yeah, and I think more of that has to do probably with just their performance on the mile-and-a-half tracks, not exactly where Junior Motorsports wants their drivers and their cars to be at this point in time. They seem to be getting better, but some changes were made in the offseason to everything with the cars. But then before Charlotte, some more changes and more in regards to the splitter, I believe, and making everyone conform to the way it's supposed to be. And so I think that's probably changed the balance, and they've been working extremely hard to get that back to the drivers' liking.
Tyler will have completed his 24th lap of this session. He's 4th fastest on 5-lap averages, and that's a good place to be as well. Ryan Sieg has made the playoffs before. He'd like to do it again. He's on the outside looking in here. And the Tucker, Georgia driver and his relatively small team.
Yep.
Trying to find some speed here on this mile-and-a-half.
Yeah, another driver that had some promising things going on last week at Daytona and unfortunately got caught up in one of the many late race accidents.
I think when you win at Daytona in those restrictor plate races, a lot of it is astonishment that you've made it to the end, because you've obviously avoided a few things, and there are other times when it looks like you're not going to be the winner. Well, we've got a problem on the racetrack. Car around and righted itself. It was either Alex Labbe in the 36 or it was the 16 of Ryan Reed. It's a good look at Labbe.
Tires are probably ruined.
And there's definitely been a little contact on the 16 there.
Yeah, I believe he was fine.
While we find that replay or that information, let's head down to the garage area. There is Ryan Truex out of his car discussing things with crew chief Chris Rice there in the red band. And this was some radio from earlier.
I'm still kind of struggling in 1 and 2. It almost turned itself to the line too soon. Those last 2 laps, I hit the apron twice. That got me up the track. I felt like it did tighten it up a little bit off the board, maybe a little too much. You're doing just fine. We're all right. We're actually way better than we've been at 80 mile-and-a-half. That's the main thing.
There's the voice of circumspect view of the whole thing,
That's right? Yes. Always glass half full with that man.
Well, but he had the data, too, that
Yes.
Brian maybe didn't have, which was, no, we're a whole lot better than we were. So the red flag is out now for practice. Stopped at this point for this, and it was indeed LeBay. He lose the side window there, too?
Well,
Quite
didn't
tell.
hit anything.
Nope. Nice save off the corner.
Yeah, I heard them talk about that the tires were gone, but whenever you spin here and the tires are the only thing you have to replace, that's a pretty good thing.
And it's about learning during these practices, especially, there's something laying down there, if you haven't been in the series a long time, or I had a conversation with Chad Fincham down in the garage area just about an hour ago. Chad is learning this series. He hasn't been a lot of these tracks yet in the Xfinity series, and he is a short tracker by trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as they got to these tracks this year, they were having crew chiefs at the track who had not prepared the car, and they were changing things once the car arrived at the track. And he said, I wasn't getting any track time. Here I am, a rookie. I haven't been to these tracks yet, and I'm getting no track time. Well, they made a change about 3 weeks ago. Brian Keselowski is the crew chief now for Chad's 40 car, and Brian has things much more under control by the time they get to the track, and Chad's already been out on the track 14 laps and getting the experience he needs.
Yeah.
Marty?
ABC time running down, 8:52:51 left now here in practice, the first one for the Xfinity Series. Alex LeBay just came on the radio a moment ago and said, man, it just absolutely snapped around on me. He said, I think we're probably a little too loose, so they're going to make some adjustments. Good thing he didn't hit the wall. But, DJ, every driver's been in that position before where the car just completely comes around on you.
Yeah, and we talk about the mile and a half. Yeah, everybody wants to put them all in one category as a mile and a half track, but this one couldn't be more different if you tried to make it more different. I mean, the two ends are completely different, which they did. They tried to do, and they made it. But that's the challenge that you have here is trying to get the car to turn in the center of the corner and then power up, because you have such a long corner that you're in the gas carrying a lot of speed, and all that thing has to do is just step out just for a split second, and there's really no saving it. He did the right thing, kind of locked it down for a minute and then stood in the gas and kept it off the wall. Did a nice job, but now he knows exactly what they need to, not exactly what they need to do, but a direction they need to go in and tightening the car up so he can try to go a little quicker.
That place right there, the exit, sorry, not the exit of 2. I was thinking of the entry of 3. Had a conversation with Kevin Harvick this week about Kentucky Speedway, because he said getting into 3 is one of the most difficult things we do with these race cars in the entire sport.
Yeah. It's just such an odd corner. You go down the backstretch, and you don't really have anything to measure off of. You can't see enough of the wall, and there's not enough markings, and they're not in the right spot even then that are there to tell you where to let off exactly. It's so tempting because there's so much asphalt down through there. You think you can just drive it down there, but you don't have any banking until you're down well into the corner, and so it just makes it so difficult. You're carrying a lot of speed. If you got off a turn 2 right, you're carrying a ton of speed down into that corner, and it's just one of the most difficult places that you go. We talk about how tough Darlington is. I think the entry to this corner, again, I never raced here, but tested a ton here, and it was one of the most difficult things I ever tried to do, was to try to feel how fast I could literally get my car in, because it's so easy to overdrive, but then when you back it up, you're not carrying enough speed, and you try to pick the throttle up too soon, and then you end up pushing it all the way out to the wall off of turn 4.
Paul Menard is in the 22 this weekend. Marty, what have you got, sir?
Well, Dave, we talked about how line sensitive this racetrack. Even a Cup veteran like Paul Menard is seeking a little help. Take a listen.
Yeah, he's about a half a car higher than what you were right there in the 3, the 18 is. Get into the yellow line later? Yeah, about close to the end of that Kentucky 3, son. Yeah, I can't see that, though. Need like an infield reference if there is one. Yeah, not really. About 2 car lengths longer than what you were.
There you go. And Paul ran very well here in the Xfinity Series race last year until he got into an accident. But, DJ, interestingly, he said, hey, I can't see the mark you're trying to tell me. Give me an infield reference if you can, so I can see something in the infield, so I know when Kyle is getting down to that bottom line in that 18 car in 1 and 2.
Well, yeah, and as I just said, it's so tough back there to try to figure out exactly where that is. And I'm telling you, Kyle Busch can do things that not many people can do. And being able to hold the car out there just a little bit longer gives him a better entry into the corner. But by doing that, everybody else that tries to do that, they get so loose that they have to back out of the throttle. And Kyle Busch just has the ability to not turn the wheel and get his car and let it roll through there carrying speed. And so, yeah, you want to try to emulate him all that you can, but it's tough to do.
You have to be aware of the special things that he can do.
Yeah.
Before you try to apply them to yourself.
And you want to know, if there's something that you're different. If you're turning in 2 car lengths sooner, you can see right there how he's staying out, where others are driving it straighter in. So they're driving straighter in. They have to put more wheel in the center, so that just slows them down in the center and then makes them wash up the racetrack a little bit, where Kyle has his car pointed in the right direction at the center and able to get a good run off the corner. You can hear that right there, just so smooth with the throttle. There's no driving all the way down in, jumping out. You see, he's having a little bit of an issue getting off of turn 2 right now. But, if you remember last year, I believe it was, or 2 years ago, where we saw him with his Cup car completely spin the car out on the exit of turn 2 over there. We talk about how tough the entry is to turn 3. Well, almost as difficult as the exit of turn 2 over here. Especially as they added that banking and you carry more speed through there. Time off of turn 2, he looked like he was more exactly where he wanted. Had the car pointed and doing everything that he wanted it to do. We'll see, he ran 30.46 the last time.
But this driver right now is quickest on single lap times, Daniel Hemrick.
Well, he was anyway.
Until John Hunter Nemechek punted him.
Fast lap by John Hunter. 29.85, first car down in the 29-second bracket. I don't know if that was a mock qualifying error they might have put up there.
I'm looking at the number of laps there, and I'm thinking maybe if you haven't raced in this series at this track, you get an extra set of tires to do that with, perhaps. Yep.
You can see him slowing down, so it probably was that.
Good information for that driver. Josh Bilicki in the 45 had engine problems at Daytona. Hopes they have those corrected this weekend. We'll try to follow the Hemrick line and see what he's doing.
Yeah, Hemrick's running some really fast laps here. He just hasn't stayed out there very long at any point in time. He does have a 5-lap average, but that was the very first time out. Most people ran somewhere 5 to 7, 8 laps that first time out, just getting get a feel for their car. Hemrick continues to put down some pretty decent laps.
And DJ, for what it's worth, Danny Stockman is very happy. Big smile on his face. In fact, he's told Daniel Hemrick those were really good lap times a couple of times in this practice session. So that little bit of experimenting they may be doing setup-wise here to get better on those longer runs might be paying off for the 21.
Always nice whenever experiments work out.
Yeah. Well, one thing he's not going to be experimenting a lot with is anything much above the bottom line. He just told the assembled media that he plans on staying down to the bottom as good as Goodyear can make a left side tire, as much as they can drag the tire, dragging around here. I'm staying low for success.
Yeah, that's where the races are won around here. The drivers that figure that out, make it work.
Ryan Reed is 5th quick in single lap times right now.
And his lap times are still pretty good with laps on his tires here too. Trying to be very consistent.
And DJ, he's trying to come off of 2 straight failures to finish. Accidents at both Chicagoland and Daytona. Trying to lift the whole team out of that.
Yeah, those 2 weeks have certainly put him closer to that 12th spot and cutoff line than he would like to be, because they'd built up a pretty decent margin.
Yep.
Until the last couple of weeks.
Well, and that was your point earlier. I mean, some of the nice little points ahead look great, but boy, you can't count on them.
That's what's so important about going out week after week after week and trying to minimize mistakes, whether it's as a driver or whether it's on pit road, whatever it may be, and getting the most out of that, because you're going to go through difficult times. I mean, we saw the points leader, Elliott Sadler, have a couple of bad weeks, but he had done such a good job of finishing in the top 10 every other race that even having those 2 weeks, he was able to come back at Daytona and have a good run and regain that points lead. So it's about being consistent. Marty?
You see Christopher Bell trying to hold Austin Cindric back there. They have struggled with this 20 car in this practice session. In fact, they had hoped to get a couple of laps here. They're going to get those. They made a last-second scramble change, trying to get a little more feel in the race car for Christopher, but just not the direction they want to go in this practice session. So I think they've got a little more work to do here on this 20 team.
Good thing they have another almost hour, huh, DJ?
Yeah, for sure.
There are the red and black flags indicating that practice 1 is over. John Hunter Nemechek, fastest in single lap times. Best 5-lap average? You didn't even have to look, did you?
It's Kyle Busch, of course.
Yes,
yeah.
Kyle, very fast. We'll be back in another take an hour break. We'll be back for more on the app with the Xfinity Series here from Kentucky Speedway.